Well, good morning, everyone. I want to thank you for joining us this morning for a very important press conference related to an emergency piece of legislation. I'm mindful today, and you may be as well as you look at my colleagues, that today we're also recognizing the Legislative Women's Caucus Denim Day, which is another form of hatred and brutality that had been directed towards women. So I wanted to make sure you know that we stand here today with that in our minds as well. It's good to be here, of course. You're going to hear from a number of people, but with our governor, with the CEO of Planned Parenthood, with the president of the California Medical Society, you will hear from each of them about this really important piece of emergency legislation. I want to thank the Democratic Legislative Women's Caucus for leading and prioritizing the governor's proposed bill, SB 233. In particular, Chair Nancy Skinner, Vice Chair Cecile Aguiar-Curry, and of course all of my colleagues that are here today. We absolutely must thank you, Governor Newsom, for leading, not just in California, but across the country, creating the Reproductive Freedom Alliance. That is 21 states with 21 governors banding together to fight for women in America. Now, this latest out of Arizona, this draconian law from 1864, is the reason this alliance is needed. And I would also add that Governor Katie Hobbs, of course, is part of the alliance formed by our good governor. More than 36 million women and growing, unfortunately, across the country are being affected negatively. Their rights, our rights, stripped away from us in the blink of an eye. And that brings us to SB 233. And California and this governor and this legislature will continue to lead for California and for anyone in need of service. As a former provider who scheduled doctors at our clinics across the state in the mid-'80s, understanding that we had to bring the professionals to where the clinics were across this state, I understand the value of having trained providers and doctors. I applaud the creativity, the practicality, and giving doctors the opportunity to continue to serve their patients. So let's get this done. Let's continue to be a beacon for those across this country and provide help where we can. And with that, let me introduce my colleague in the Assembly, Assembly Member Dawn Addis.
Well, good morning and thank you. It's a huge honor to be here, and I want to say thank you to our governor, thank you to my colleagues here for your leadership and your steadfast commitment to women's rights and reproductive justice. I'm Dawn Addis, representing Assembly District 30. I'm a proud member of the Select Committee on Reproductive Justice, a former Planned Parenthood Central Coast Action Fund board member, and a founder of the 2016 Women's March in San Luis Obispo, when we thought it really couldn't get worse, and it has, and so we're here today. I want to start by saying to the people of Arizona whose lives are being unwound by cruelty and outdated laws, that here in California we see you, we hear you, we care about you, and we are taking every action possible to help you access the care you need, when and how you need it. We stand here today witnessing horrific setbacks to the progress our mothers and grandmothers fought so hard for. People in Arizona and across the U.S., especially young girls, BIPOC youth, and LGBT youth, cannot count on the same access to basic reproductive health care that so many of us had and all of us deserve. But I will say that in the face of adversity, we cannot give up. In California, we do not give up. And that's why I'm a proud co-author of SB 233, the urgency bill. So again, I'm honored to join our governor. I want to say thank you, Governor. I want to say thank you, Women's Caucus leadership. Thank you to the Pro Tem and Pro Tem Emeritus and our speaker who are answering Arizona's call for help. and I want to urge all of our colleagues in the legislature to do the same. And now I would like to introduce one of my favorite colleagues, Senator Menjivar.
Favorite to a lot. Good morning, everyone. Senator Caroline Menjivar here. I stand here as what Arizona would consider, or would hope to consider, a third-class citizen, as a woman and as a lesbian. And they're looking to pass laws that, in that time, I would have been forced in the closet or forced to stay in the kitchen. As a Latina, as a Latina who grew up in a community of color, where access to basic healthcare was a struggle, I know firsthand that barriers exist in accessing just the basic medical needs. Now I have the great honor of representing my communities and California, and when it comes to reproductive care, I will not just rest until our state is truly the nation's reproductive leader. Preserving access to reproductive care for all in the United States is of utmost importance because, even in a progressive state like us, it is women and birthing people of color who encounter the most barriers to services. In states with restrictions, that's even further amplified. White women and women of means can afford to obtain services from out-of-state providers of their choosing, not just border states like Arizona to California. But Black and brown women who already face multiple obstacles to care will have zero safe options unless California has a strong provider network in place. So I'm grateful to the leadership behind me, in front of me, to the partnership of the governor in introducing this legislation and bringing it forward to once again further stamp our place in history as a leader. So let's make California a further safe haven for women and birthing people of color to get reproductive care they need. Now I'd like to introduce my sister-in-arm, Assemblymember Lori Wilson.
Thank you, Senator Menjivar. As was stated, I'm Assemblymember Lori Wilson, have the distinct pleasure of representing the 11th District as well as chairing the California Legislative Black Caucus. Good morning to you all. I'd like to start by thanking our governor, first partner, legislative leadership, as well as the leadership of the Women Caucus, and of course, all the wonderful women standing behind me for bringing this important legislation forward. Once again, the right to health care, the right to privacy, the right to choose has been compromised by outdated draconian laws that deny women their dignity and autonomy. Abortion access is an essential part of health care, period. It is heartbreaking to see that in the year 2024, we are still fighting this fight to allow women to make decisions that are right for them and their bodies. According to CDC, Black women have the highest rate of abortions, with 23.8% abortions per 1,000 women. The majority of these women, 56.9% of them, were in their 20s. This is according to the data. These women made a choice they believed was in their best interest. As chair of the California Legislative Black Caucus, it is my duty to support the health choices of Black women across California and ensure they have full access to quality health care to meet their needs. Unfortunately, as we know, access to abortion and effective birth control services directly affects not only your health, but your financial health as well. It is not as simple as deciding whether or not you want to be a parent. For some, it is the decision around whether or not you can afford food or housing, or even if your body can safely sustain light. Or it can directly relate to the circumstances of how you came to be pregnant. No matter your background, your race, or your socioeconomic status, this decision can also be the choice that determines your quality of life now and in the future. And this is not a decision a state should be making for you. You have the exclusive right to decide what your future looks like, and that includes the choice of whether or not to be a parent. To our neighbors in Arizona and beyond, we say, California will protect your right to choose. California is a safe place. So, California welcomes you. Thank you. It is my pleasure to present the next speaker, my colleague from Sacramento, Senator Angelique Ashby.
What an honor to get to be here with this all-star lineup. I am proud to do so. Good news. Today is about good news. This is really good news for the women of Arizona. In California, the largest caucus in our legislature is standing right behind me. It's all about the women in California. And we, thankfully, have a governor who stands with us, which is going to allow us the moment to stand with you. I want to thank Senator Skinner and Assemblywoman Cecilia Aguiar Curry for having the courage to bravely step forward, join our governor immediately, and put this bill in front of our legislative colleagues, including myself. I have the honor of being the chair of the Business, Professions, and Economic Development Committee, which may have you thinking, what does that have to do with this today? Well, that is where this bill will go. And it is not unusual for California to talk about what doctors might be able to practice in California, where we might work with other states to bring people into California to provide services. But today is particularly important because today we have the opportunity to help women who woke up last week with fewer rights than their mothers have had for their lifetime. It's not right. This is about bodily autonomy, being in charge of your own decisions and your own welfare and what happens for you in your lifetime. I think it's ironic that we're all wearing jeans today because it's Denim Day. Denim Day is about a court case where a rapist used the fact that his victim was wearing jeans as part of his successful defense. Imagine your clothing choice in the morning determining whether or not you get raped today. And by the way, if you are in Arizona, you're going to have to keep that baby. No longer, because your doctor can come here to California and work with us. I appreciate everyone working on this bill. It is my absolute honor to introduce to you the doctor in the mix today, President of California's Medical Association, Dr. Tanya Spiritos.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Tanya Spiritos. I am an actively practicing gynecologist and president of the California Medical Association. I want to start by thanking Governor Gavin Newsom and the Legislative Women's Caucus for their unwavering commitment to ensuring access to essential health care services. The recent Arizona Supreme Court ruling paves the way for a near-total ban on abortion in Arizona. This decision not only infringes on women's rights to seek needed health care, but it also endangers their health and well-being, as well as the health and well-being of their families and communities. We have witnessed the repercussions of such bans in other states, where women face increased health risks, including higher rates of maternal mortality. Also, these bans disproportionately affect marginalized communities, including low-income individuals and people of color who already face massive barriers to health care access. As physicians, we believe that patients must have access to vital, often life-saving reproductive health care. We believe that all personal medical decisions, including those around abortion, should be made by patients in consultation with their health care providers. By banning virtually all abortions in the state, the ruling will put physicians in harm's way for simply providing often life-saving medical care to their patients. The urgency bill introduced today will allow Arizona abortion providers to temporarily provide abortion care to patients from Arizona who have traveled to California for care. It is unfortunate that Arizona women will be forced to travel long distances out of their own state, away from their support network, to seek health care. But I am proud that California is stepping up to offer assistance. I applaud the governor and the Legislative Women's Caucus for their work to protect patients, and we at the California Medical Association look forward to helping to get this important measure passed. Thank you. It is my honor. It is my honor to introduce the next speaker, and that would be Jody Hicks, CEO and President of Planned Parenthood Affiliates of California.
Thank you, Dr. Spiritos. And I'm here this morning, again, grateful to be in California. I do have to say I'm also pissed off this morning. And I started my morning, I think like many of my colleagues behind me, listening to oral arguments at the Supreme Court. Listening to them for an hour and a half argue about whether a pregnant person living in the state of Idaho or any state with a ban, or even a person traveling to that state, that is experiencing a medical emergency, like an uncontrollable hemorrhage, like kidney failure, like something happening for the future of pregnancies that they may want, can receive stabilizing, life-saving care. And this is the debate we're having today. So just to be clear, the national abortion ban that is threatening us and the abortion bans that are happening state by state has caused nothing but chaos since Roe was overturned less than 2 years ago. Abortion patients have been criminalized, legal access to medication abortion, birth control, IVF, and now medical emergency care is in the balance. And of course, why we're here today, which is a near total abortion ban in the state of Arizona, our neighboring state, that will happen in mere weeks. And something that we all watched as Republican members of the Arizona legislature cheered on the floor and applauded that they were taking away rights for our daughters that we all have enjoyed, what has been expressed a lot here today. And the cruelty of what is happening is the point of it all. State abortion bans have caused chaos, confusion, and contribute to the fear across state lines for both patients and providers, which is why, again, I'm grateful to be here in California. I'm grateful for the governor and the legislators that are working and pulling out every tool in the toolbox to try and do what we can for patients in California and patients coming here. But as yet another state institutes an abortion ban, and that total is now 22. Planned Parenthood in California welcomes any of these tools for anyone that seeks abortion care here in the state of California. And I just want to be clear, though, it is not good enough. No one should have to travel outside of the state they live in order to get care. So I want to thank the governor again and the legislature for their unwavering commitment to protecting California's status as a reproductive freedom state. And with that, I am honored to introduce our Majority Leader, Assemblymember Aguiar Curry, Vice Chair of the California Legislative Women's Caucus.
Good morning, everyone. Governor and First Partner, let me start by thanking you for your continued partnership on women's civil and human rights. And I also want to thank our Speaker, Robert Rivas, and Pro Tem McGuire for supporting our efforts on this critical issue. Thank you very much. For years, but especially since the Dobbs decision, the Legislative Women's Caucus has led on all the legislative responses to the attacks on abortion and reproductive rights. We have passed legislation to expand, to protect, to strengthen access to reproductive health care in our state, including access to safe abortions to all Californians and refugees from other states seeking such care. We are not standing down until a woman's reproductive health and abortion rights stop being attacked by our country. Some judicial appointees in states want to send us back to the Middle Ages, in fact, or at least to 1864, on people's reproductive health and abortion rights. They have proven that this is a fight we can win by focusing within our California borders. Here in California, we made a long-standing promise to be a refuge state for anyone seeking to exercise their rights, and we intend to keep it. This is why we support emergency legislation to grant Arizona doctors licensure in California to perform abortion services for Arizona residents for this calendar year. So to the Arizona people of childbearing age and those who love and support them, we have your back. And at least until you get the chance to reverse this attack on your rights on the Arizona ballot this November. It is my honor to introduce to you our partner in the fight for American women's reproductive rights, first partner, Jennifer Siebel Newsom.
We're back in this room again to condemn those who continue to fuel dangerous, divisive, and patriarchal political ideology at the expense of women's health and safety. But more importantly, we're back to follow through on a commitment that California pledged: to safeguard the reproductive rights and health of those who live in California and those who travel here to receive or provide abortion care. Each time I take this stage, I am less shocked but still appalled by the new lows of the red states and conservative courts that seek to distract us with their pro-life rhetoric in order to disguise a goal and a strategy even older than the Arizona law we're here to talk about. A goal to dominate and control women's bodies, lives, and futures. But none of this should be shocking. Since Roe v. Wade was overturned, state abortion bans, attacks on safe and long-used abortion medication, even assaults on IVF have all been in line with a very obvious and extreme anti-woman agenda. But with each new agenda item, because they've got their lists, California, through our governor, through the entire administration with awesome leadership over here, the legislature, particularly the Women's Caucus, and our partners have stood up to these attacks and provided a safe harbor for those seeking to exercise their basic reproductive rights. And we're not alone. When given the opportunity, women and our allies across the nation have used their voice and their vote to shut down attempts to roll back women's reproductive freedom. So I stand here today in partnership with these leaders, proud to live in and raise our family in the Golden State, a state that is unafraid to respond swiftly and strategically to counter the Arizona Supreme Court's upholding and their Republicans' refusal to appeal an archaic, heinous, and dangerous near-total ban on abortion. Because, and I'll say it over and over again if necessary, in California, we value women. In California, we value women's health. In California, we support every woman's right to bodily autonomy. And in California, we trust women to make their own decisions about their fates and futures. Now I'm happy to introduce Senator Nancy Skinner, the author of this bill, chair of the California Women's Caucus, our friend and a champion for women and girls.
Thank you, First Partner, for being so clear about what we are facing. Such plain language and yet accurate. But thank you all, everyone gathered here, and all of my Legislative Women's Caucus colleagues who have spoken, and of course our allies, our CMA President and Planned Parenthood. Thank you, Governor Newsom. Again, I thank the members of LWC and our Speaker Rivas and Pro Tem McGuire. But I also want to give a shout out to Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays, because she had the courage to put out the call to neighboring states to support Arizona doctors and patients. And that's what we are responding to. Because anti-abortion forces and their Arizona Supreme Court allies resurrected a dead law a law passed in 1864 when women did not have the right to vote and when it was legal for husbands to beat their wives, among other things. And against this backdrop, as the first partner has so clearly pointed out, it's obvious that the real objective is to return women to second-class status. With SB 233, the Women's Caucus is once again taking our gloves off. And you've seen the Planned Parenthood boxing gloves. We are putting the boxing gloves on to protect women's rights. We California legislators, Speaker Rivas, Pro Tem McGuire, the rest of our legislative colleagues, at least 2/3 of them I am going to anticipate, Governor Newsom, and our state agencies will use the state of California's authority to stand strong for Arizona and their doctors. We will be a safe haven so that Arizonans do not have to carry an unplanned, unwanted, or health-endangering pregnancy. And our Arizona sisters can come to California to get the health care that they need from their own doctors who they rely on. And Arizona doctors can come to California without fear of spending 2 to 5 years in prison, which are the criminal penalties associated with that law. We proudly take on this fight. We will not abandon our sisters or their healthcare professionals in Arizona or in any other state. And all of our actions have demonstrated that to date. So now I would like to introduce Governor Newsom, who has stood with the Legislative Women's Caucus and our allies in the Future of Abortion Council, Planned Parenthood, Black Women for Wellness, Latinas for Reproductive Justice, Reproductive Freedom for All, and all of the rest. And he has spoken out loudly and proudly and signed every bill that we put forward to defend, protect, ensure, and expand access to reproductive services and abortion. Governor Newsom.
Thank you. And there have been a lot of bills. Let me thank you, Senator and Majority Leader, to the Lieutenant Governor, to all of the remarkable leaders assembled behind me, led by the Pro Tem and the Speaker, and of course, my partner in life, not just the first partner in the state of California, Jennifer, for her passion and collectively for their action. I don't want to belabor and I don't want to burden you with redundant thoughts. I just want to add additional considerations. 160,000 people across this country had to flee their states to access reproductive care, reproductive freedom last year. 160,000. 65,000 women were raped last year and became pregnant because they're rapist babies in just the 14 of the most restrictive states in this country. This is not an academic exercise. This is real life. This is happening in real time. We've seen the costs of that, not just in terms of access and care. We've seen the cost in terms of not only quality of life, economic costs, but we've seen the medical costs. We've seen the damage it has done to women, their bodies, as Jen said, their life and their futures. And we're seeing that playing out in real time, including, as Jody was saying, as we were all crawling out of our skins, listening to Judge Alito and others questioning the Solicitor General on the draconian laws in Idaho that have forced women quite literally to flee in emergency rooms by helicopter and by air transport to flee other states. Many of those that have fled other states have come to the state of California. We've seen that in Imperial County. We've seen in Riverside and San Diego. We've seen a 10% increase just in the last year or so of out-of-state requests for care. You've seen now in border states, the data is overwhelming. Between 2020 and 2023, post-Dobbs, the border states have increased care for out-of-state patients by 37%. This Arizona law is the first border state law that will directly impact the state of California. And rather than just acknowledging that fate and future. We're trying to get ahead of this law, which goes into effect on June 8th. And we are advancing a reciprocity frame that would allow the ability for those healthcare providers in good standing in Arizona to be able to provide that basic care to patients fleeing the state of Arizona into the state of California and support that access here in the state of California. This is a reciprocity law that should be familiar to many of you. It was established for military spouses last year in the bill that I was proud to sign. All of you supported SB 143, and you advanced and put on our desk. I'll just close. Just deep respect, deep gratitude for living in California. I'm just blessed, quirk of fate, to this remarkable group of leaders assembled behind me that not only get it, but get things done. And we just want, in the spirit of comments were made before, folks to know they matter, we care. When you're the size of 21 state populations combined, we have more at stake than any other state in America. A third of the patients that are served by Planned Parenthood alone are here in the state of California. No state has more to do and more responsibility to promote what needs to be done than our state. And so that's the spirit that brings us here together. And that's the spirit that I'm confident will bring 2/3, as the senator said in the legislature, to meet this moment head on and get this bill to my desk as quickly as possible. With that, we're here to answer any questions.
Governor, have you had any discussions with Attorney General Chris Mays or anyone with the Women's Caucus just to confirm that this is exactly what they're looking for?
Yeah, she reached out to our Attorney General, and I want to thank Attorney General Bonta that immediately called our office. She inspired this framework. She inspired this support, and we have been in contact. As it relates to the peculiarities of the legislation, we have not been working with her counsel in that respect, but certainly the spirit of what she was looking for.
Governor, I understand this is like a response to what's happening in Arizona, but given this legislative tool, there are doctor shortages, healthcare shortages in California, in rural California. Why not use a tool like this for other kinds of healthcare shortages?
Well, we've done it for military spouses. We have a lot of other tools that we're considering across the spectrum around telehealth and scope of practice, a lot of other issues that I don't want to litigate here, particularly the presence of the head of the CMA behind you to the right, and others. But look, we're mindful of that. It's both and. I mean, and let me just make this point as well. It's a point that needs to be underscored. I say both and. Look, we're not only mindful of that, we've been mindful of this larger issue for some time. The Legislative Women's Caucus led an effort to provide $60 million specifically to provide for those that need support for uncompensated care, including $20 million specifically set aside for travel that's already in the first 6 months benefited over 1,500 women. We've used $5 million of that $20 million for travel-related expenses, for lodging-related expenses, for people that need to seek reproductive care out of the state. It's all of the above, and I am remiss if I didn't acknowledge an organization that appeared out of nowhere yesterday, gave us a call and gave us a check, or at least committed to a fund that they've created for specifically the purpose that we intend to advance here in the state of California. It's an organization called Red Wine and Blue, and they are funding with an initial contribution of $100,000 specifically to this effort to support our broader efforts, a creation of an Arizona Freedom Trust that will support those seeking care from out of state that otherwise could not afford that care. Again, it's a stacking of many considerations across the spectrum, and I won't get into more particularities around our last few budgets as it relates to the issue of supporting more doctors in rural parts of California.
Governor,
Sorry. Decision have tried to penalize people for seeking abortions out of state. Is there anything that California can do to address that for Arizonans who might face that future?
Well, you've seen I'm doing some ads. I'm trying to highlight this. Created a website, righttotravel.org. You see the website we created, Legislative Women's Caucus led, abortion.ca.gov, which lays out all of the principal points that I'm making here today. It's an aggregation site that provides detailed information for people seeking reproductive care. We've done billboards, to your question, promoting this website in 7 other states. I'm currently doing an ad that the Republican Party in Alabama is threatening to sue me for as it relates to highlighting a bill that was introduced in March. They may want to read that bill that would seek to criminalize people that aid and abet people seeking reproductive care, meaning it's a travel ban. What is going on in Idaho? They did a travel ban. That's not what's being adjudicated at the Supreme Court today, but they had previously done a travel ban to make it illegal to travel out of state to seek reproductive care. Aiding and abetting. Tennessee, Oklahoma. Thank God in Mississippi it just died, but in Alabama it's still thriving. The AG in Alabama said not only would he support that effort, he wants to expand it beyond even the principles of the bill that was introduced and is being heard in the Alabama legislature, and he wants to advance criminal conspiracy charges. He said that in August of last year. This is serious. One thing it all has in common, it's guys like Alito. It's men determining the fate and future of women. I don't know how. I'm serious. I said this morning. Forgive me for this. I said to my staff, mostly women, I said, I don't know how everything just doesn't stop. And we're not out there saying enough. This would never happen if it was men. We know that. This is really sick what's happening in this country right now. And spare me this freedom gospel. Spare me. Pro-life? Really? What about the rest of life? Governor of Alabama, Tennessee, when they're cutting prenatal programs, they're cutting access to child care. They've never been out there, none of them support increasing paid family leave. They're attacking not just access to reproductive care, they're attacking contraceptive care actively in the United States of America today, 2024. So, again, I'm empathetic. I've got problems in life. I can't even imagine translating these problems if I'm a young woman of reproductive age in these states. And so we want to lend our hand, not just our hearts, and we want to create a framework of real support.
One question, Governor. One, is this about continuum of care? Because women can already come to California and get the abortions, having Arizona providers do it for them. And B, would it protect the doctors when they return back to their state?
Well, we have well-established laws as it relates to privacy and protection. I want to thank the CMA, doctor, and others that have led those efforts, and we have nation-leading laws on that. By the way, our Reproductive Freedom Alliance, it's now 23 states. We're very proud. We just got Kentucky to join our efforts, and the senators speak on that more specifically. But it's part of that toolkit that we're sharing with other states that are advancing similar laws and privacy protections. But just briefly, as it relates to the issue, what we're trying to advance, ask the folks, the first stop is near Yuma, Arizona, coming on the borders in Imperial County. They had a Planned Parenthood there that burned down. It's a shack right now. The burden is going to be overwhelming in Imperial and Riverside after January. So to the extent that goes to the broader range of whole person care, this is about human resources that are also scarce as well. So.
Just additionally, SB 233 will be in print. It's being amended. The language is being amended into an existing vehicle, SB 233. It'll be amended tomorrow. But that language includes privacy protections so that California will protect the privacy of any Arizona medical professionals that come here under this law. So it's built in. So we have done that in addition to all the other privacies that we have built into the other laws that Governor Newsom has signed, including having our law enforcement, basically prohibiting our law enforcement from engaging with other states' law enforcement around the other states' enforcement of these draconian laws, and also inability to get subpoena cell phone records. All of that we have built in, even preventing the very cell phone companies and social media companies from releasing information that might enable a state to prosecute either a patient or a provider.
What message do you have for Californians that are potentially concerned about this plan? And in your opinion, is abortion the biggest issue on the ballot in November?
Well, I mean, if you care about women and girls and their life, their fate, the future, I mean, to me, it's just so foundational. It's so remarkably foundational that I don't know how it can't be. But I don't look at it from a technical political. There's some cynicism when we look at it purely from a political frame. This is just about basic decency and humanity. It's about respect for women and girls. I mean, this is, as Jen says, it's about power and control, period, full stop. And these folks want to bring us back. I was wrong. I said these folks want to bring us back to a pre-1960s world. I got that wrong. They want to bring us back to a pre-18th and 19th century world. Sure, the 19th century relates to an 1864 abortion law, but the 18th century relates to what they're doing on gun safety and the Bruin and the history-only framework, going back to the 1700s. I mean, it's really extraordinary moment that we are living through. Now, you asked another question, which I've now forgotten.
In your opinion, is abortion the biggest issue on the ballot?
Well, even prior to that, though, why this matters to Californians, and look, we're already being impacted by people fleeing other states to access care. So for Californians, what does this have to do with me? It has everything to do with me. We all are absorbing that already, and we're asking for more support, a little reciprocity, and we have patient relationships that we also want to protect in that construct. And this would allow those providers that already have pre-existing patient relationships to provide that care within the state of California without fear of litigation, fear of any reciprocal criminal prosecution.
You mentioned that we lack some resources at the border. I'm curious, where would these abortions happen? Where would these doctors work? Any thought on?
Well, let's ask the doctor and maybe Planned Parenthood. That's a broader question. I mean, anywhere and everywhere. But, Doctor?
Thank you. The idea of where would they work, we have many existing doctors' offices and clinics, and the idea being that those physicians who may have advertising, that may have connections, network support in Arizona, would be able to spread the word that they are now practicing out of an existing office in California. And I'm certain that there will be alliances made also with community clinics and with Planned Parenthood. Jody, do you want to speak on the Planned Parenthood issue?
Sure. I mean, I'm reluctant to say exactly what will happen when. This is another tool for what will happen, what we can use as we continue to be impacted as state after state or court decision after court decision impedes access for people as they need to come into California. And I think that's the blanket answer. Planned Parenthood right now has been preparing for this for over 2 years. We are serving patients from out of state. We will continue to do that. What we don't know is what will happen as Arizona comes next year and it's a neighboring state. We know that we couldn't have predicted what has happened now in the 21 states that have instituted bans and the travel of patients and where they go and how they will seek care. What we do know is patients will try and seek care because it is life-saving, because they need to be able to make decisions about their futures, and patients will go where they need to go. And so what we're doing today is instituting any tool that can help with that, but we can't accurately predict what happens because this is a healthcare delivery system that we're now bifurcating state by state, and it just doesn't work that way. And that's why we have the chaos and confusion that we have today. And we're instituting laws as it comes at us, like a fire hose of bad laws in 2 years when we've had some sort of stability. And I also want to say that Roe v. Wade was always the floor. It was never the ceiling. It was never the best that we could have in terms of access to abortion and reproductive health care. But what has happened now is we have no floor. We have no base. And this is what we're experiencing, and it's why we're doing everything we can, and we're grateful that everyone's doing that.
Just really quick, though, at the root of your question and yours, the brilliance of this bill
is that by licensing Arizona doctors in California, we give them access and privilege in California medical institutions where they can come and provide procedures. That makes it easier for them, and it lessens the impacts on Californians.
Last question.
Governor, just two things. I mean, you mentioned the advertisements you've been running about quickly for you've done in Florida with DeSantis. What did you mention the governor, Brad Little of Idaho, or Bill Lee of Tennessee, and also also a message I think you want to get out today of Virginia. I know it's unrelated. Just what's your message for the people of the Central Valley? I know you sent out a press release about partnering with the Bakersfield Police Department, with California Highway Patrol. Anything you want to say to our viewers in Bakersfield, Kern County, and Central Valley?
Well, just briefly on that, we announced a joint operation, not dissimilar to what we did in Oakland and in San Francisco with the California Highway Patrol working with Bakersfield PD. It's a similar effort where we are going to do proactive policing, focusing on illegal activities along the lines of DUIs, cars that have been stolen, retail theft efforts. It's an effort that will have component parts that are not just law enforcement. There's a Clean California component. There's community building components that are also part. But this is an operation that's now underway. It's an operation that, based on the feedback I've already received, has proven to already have produced some meaningful results, and we'll be sharing those results, not dissimilar to what we've done in those other cities shortly. As it relates to some of those governors you mentioned, I don't want to get off topic, but Tennessee just passed a law that wants to address the issue of mass shootings, and they think the best way of doing that is provide more guns, but in this case just to teachers, because teachers don't have enough else to do. So they might as well be there. And someone rocks in with an AK-47, they'll just quickly say, excuse me, sir, give me a moment. I have to leave my lesson plan. Let me get my concealed weapon. Don't worry, I'm not nervous. All of you kids, sit down and let me, it's absurd. They're not serious. It's happening in these states, not serious. Tennessee on reproductive care, on the issue of public safety, on life, on the issues of life. They're not serious. So forgive me for being triggered on that. There's just a lot of issues out there. And I'm just proud to sort of protect the values that I think are universal, truly American values here, as it relates to the pursuit of life, liberty, freedom, and happiness, to be able to live your life out loud. And so we stand in stark contrast. And, I'm hopeful that these travel bills die in committee. That's why I'm raising awareness around them. That's why we're focusing attention, because a lot of attention has not been placed on these travel bans. And it's just an area that just bewilders me that not more attention has not been placed on them. And that's our purpose of those ads.
California's put a lot of effort in the last 2 years into addressing the potential impacts from other states restricting access, but there are clinics that have tried to open here in California that have run into local opposition and been blocked from opening in places like Fontana or Visalia. Is your administration working on anything to address those the California obstacles to access that are existing?
I'll let my better spokesperson. Well. No, good. Well, I think Jody's perfectly positioned to talk about this.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No,
we have a bill for that.
Want to talk about it?
Yes. AB 2085 is moving through the legislature right now, authored by a Women's Caucus member, to basically streamline, to help remove those local obstacles that can happen, as we have done in housing. But that is moving, and again, I'm going to do a little crystal ball prediction that my legislative colleagues will support.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.